Welcome to the collection of the wildest and craziest AITA Reddit stories of all time. From wild betrayals to shocking twists, these tales will leave you questioning who is really in the wrong. Let's dive in together. The first story for this collection is from User is a Dumbass. AITA for wanting to have an abortion even though a family is offering to adopt? Okay, throwaway account. I am a 23-year-old female. I have been in a relationship with 25M for over 5 years. Living together for 2. A week ago, I found out that I was pregnant. Trust me when I say, we were being as safe as possible, and it was a huge shock to us. We both talked and agreed that abortion is the best answer. So we made an appointment with the doctor. We have a mandatory reflection period after the first appointment and before the procedure. My next appointment is 3 days from today. So, last Friday, I started feeling overwhelmed at work and was kinda losing it in the bathroom when a coworker walked in. She is really sweet and one of the senior managers who helped me out a lot in the beginning. I spilled my beans and she was very comforting and calming me. But later that day, she asks me if I was willing to have the baby so that she and her husband can adopt. Turns out both her and her husband have fertility issues and there was no way to get pregnant, and they have been adopting for a long time now. She said she will help me with the pregnancy, help with the cost, put in a good word with boss at work, so my career won't be affected, etc. I was really shocked and said I will think about it. After thinking about it over the weekend, I decided that I didn't want to do this. I was already feeling too overwhelmed, and I didn't want to carry a baby only to give him her up. I don't think I can handle that. So, on Monday, I went to her office and told her about my decision. As soon as I said no, she started crying, and I just felt so guilty. Because she is a sweet person and would be a lovely mother. I kept trying to explain to her, and she wasn't willing to listen, and she kept telling me to get out. I thought she needed a moment and left, but after that, she refused to hear my apology or even listen to my reasoning. She was avoiding me all day. Some of my colleagues came to know about this, and everyone was coming over to my desk to change my mind. I was almost breaking down, and I kept saying no. Everyone thinks I am the asshole for preferring abortion when there is a good family willing to adopt. Needless to say, I was quite upset when I got home. When I told my BF about this, he didn't think I was the asshole, but he did say this was a good idea, and he would prefer this over abortion. And he asked me to think about this for some more time and to postpone my appointment to Monday. But I said no, and that I am going to this appointment and that it's final. Then, he got mad and said that I wasn't even willing to think about it, and that was the least I could do. He was also mad that I wasn't even willing to take his advice, and that the baby is also his. I just went to the study room and locked the door and didn't talk to him after that. And also, I took WFH today because I didn't want to face anyone right now. I haven't spoken to anyone since last night. This whole week has been an emotional roller coaster. So, AITA? Edits. First of all, thank you for all support. ESP. People who DM'd me with personal stories and words of comfort. 2. To the people who are DMing me with horrendous links and abuses, please stop. It is already hard enough for me. 3. For all the pro-life people here. Your main argument is that the baby is another life, and my bodily anatomy doesn't matter because there is a person's life at stake. You do realize that if a person doesn't consent to organ donation before death, his organs will not be harvested despite the several lives which can be saved. Why? Bodily autonomy. A corpse's bodily autonomy is respected despite the several lives which are at stake, while a woman's bodily autonomy is not being respected over a bunch of cells. One life, if a person is very far along the pregnancy. Just something for you to think about. Lastly, I am sorry I couldn't respond personally to everyone, but I have read most, if not all, comments here, and know that I am deeply thankful for everyone taking time to help me. OP is not an AH for making a decision about her own body for which she has every right. If abortion is a best option for her mental and physical well-being, she should proceed with it. Other people's opinion doesn't matter, and no one can dictate her life. As for scores, I would rate OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the next story from OK Entrepreneur 3741. AITA for telling my family how I feel, for wanting to leave. My fiancé, 23M, and I, 25F, moved to another state with the rest of my bio family. During this time, I was pregnant. The move was really fast, and I felt like my family wasn't prepared. I told my mother that we would try it for a year, and if we didn't like it, we would do something else. Well, this last year has been hell. I let my parents talk me into wanting to move with them because they needed my name in the house, and I thought it would be better for my baby in the long run. Long story short, things were said to me about not unpacking their things fast enough or not organizing anything. We did. There's 14 of us, and my fiance and I left to unload it until they could bring the rest of our stuff. I milked my pregnancy and didn't do anything. We gave up all our savings to get everyone over here. My parents maxed out my credit card. They put my name on the tractor here they got. It all came to a head during my birth. My fiance got into it with my family because he thought I wanted everyone to be quiet, so he was trying to ensure that. Plus, we did a home birth, so he was stressed out because we were an hour away from a hospital that has a pediatric unit. He snapped at my family for things. This caused a whole storm. During my birth, my dad said something and left made a sense. 2 of my brothers left to the bar because they were going to fight him, supposedly. The younger 3 went upstairs. My mom sat on the stairs until our son came out. I was moved into my bedroom to get stitches. My fiance left to go upstairs and didn't come back for a while. I guess my dad was yelling at him and threatening to kick his ass. I didn't know at the time and was asking for my mom, and no one could find her. My grandma came in and held my hand. My mom came in at the end, looked at my son, said something to me, and left. I didn't see them until the next day when I woke up in the afternoon. I went upstairs with my son to see them, and I got ambushed about the birth and how I shouldn't marry him, that he was controlling. I was hormonal and wasn't thinking straight, so I came down here and got into an argument with him about it. The next 2 days I got sick. I ended up going septic and had to stay in the hospital for a week. I told my fiance something was wrong, and I asked my mom to come down because I was scared. She tried not to come down here at all because of my fiance. I felt like I had to beg her to come check on me. Things were awkward, but I thought they were on the mend. My fiance apologized and was doing a lot to mend their relationship between them. I have had hard feelings about my birth because I felt abandoned by them, and that they put their emotions in front of my son's birth. Well, finally, I blew up on my parents the other day. We came home from visiting my fiance's sister. My dad was trying to put his cold hands on me, and I told him to stop like 3 times. The 4th time he went to do it, I snapped a bit and shoved his hands away. My dad then mumbled something under his breath and left. He came out 10 minutes later, and I was sitting at the table when he told me that I didn't want to start anything with him because I wouldn't like it. That's when I went off about what his problem is. Apparently, I didn't specifically tell him we were going to his sister's. I don't know how he didn't know I told everyone for a month. Even my aunt, who was here for a week and a half, knew I was going. I told him that. He told me he didn't know anything, and that it was my fault. That I act different now that my fiancé was home full-time. I spend more time with them, but I don't see how else. They are the family I am making, so I think that's fine. My father then said he was going to kick my fiancé's butt. Every time I say something he or one of my brothers doesn't like, the first thing is to threaten to fight him. I told them how I felt abandoned at the end of my birth. This sent my dad into a fury. He told me that I was a spoiled, ungrateful brat because I said I felt that way. That I needed them for money. I wouldn't if they would stop taking everything. FS, my mom has taken over my bank account because hers got hacked. My dad told me, "F you," and that I could never take that back. My brother told me that I deserved the rude things they said to me during my pregnancy. When I didn't react the way he wanted, he would get CM away from my nose and try to stare me down. When that didn't work, he resorted to trying to say things to hurt my feelings. Like I abandoned them during my birth and it was all my fault. I want to leave and head back to the area we are from. I can't feel safe here with this whole situation. The thing is, I know it will start another fight. My biofam is notorious for cutting people off if they don't like what you did. We wanted to leave and not tell anyone, but I feel like I can't do that to my mom, grandma, and little brothers. I still want them in my life and my son's, but I can't live here anymore. I'm not happy and I don't feel safe. I guess I'm asking if I am thinking clearly. I should tell my mom and them and just not say anything to the rest? Or if I tell my mom and leave a note. I want them in my life so bad. OP is not an AH for prioritizing the well-being of her son. OP's family members are AHs for being manipulative and abusive towards her. OP's decision to leave them is completely justified. She did nothing wrong. So I would rate OP family 2.5 out of 5. an OP 0 on the scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from Holt's own. AITA. If I didn't send a Christmas gift to my abusive mom. My mother is extremely manipulative, and I suspect that she is a narcissist among other things. While she has done a lot of things to support me, like paying for my studies, buying me clothes, going on family trips that she would often ruin, going to the restaurant, and other things, when I told this to my friends and partners, they all said that this is the bare minimum. And it kind of shocked me because I hadn't realized and felt bad about being so rightfully upset at my mom. She has ruined my life and the way I feel things and express myself in so many different ways. She is also ableist, despite having 2 disabled children, including me, racist, transphobic, Islamophobic, fatphobic, and more. I could write a lot about things she said to me or about other people, but that would probably take too much time, and that really isn't the point of my post. Basically, she is very mean to me and other people, very bitter and judgmental. It is very draining to be around her because she always complains about everything, and I will never be good enough for her. The most recent thing that she's done was throwing a tantrum in front of my partners when she, my dad, and my brother were visiting. I moved from my home country to another, and I feel so much better now that I'm away from her. This wasn't the first time my girlfriend was meeting my mom, but my boyfriend hadn't met her before, and the first impression was not the best. She got extremely upset because, and I swear I'm not making this up, I didn't make her lasagna at my house like she had wanted me to. Mind you, we live in quite a small house just for 2 or 3 people, so having double the amount wasn't the most comfortable, and my mom isn't the skinniest person alive. Both my partners were standing. My parents and brother were on the couch, and I had to sit on the desk chair by the coffee table, so I was not exaggerating. We argued the day before because my girlfriend had told me that having them over for dinner was going to be extremely overwhelming, and that we wouldn't have the space, and she, my mom, reluctantly accepted that there wouldn't be any lasagna, but snacks instead. When she was looking around the house, she kept making rude comments and eventually said, "You're not going to like this, but I, for one, think that there was plenty of space for us to eat here. It was really selfish of you not to make the lasagna. If you didn't want us over, you just had to say so." And that made me snap, which ended in her storming out of the house and basically telling me and my partners to f off. Great first impression, thanks Mom. The day after, we had to help them get to the airport, mainly because they don't speak English, and I had to help with directions. And, this is kind of funny, when we got into the subway, she power walked all the way to the other end of the train to sit as far away as possible. My dad felt and looked completely hopeless and disappointed, and he had to sit with Mom for the whole hour instead of spending the last vacation time with us. Poor guy. And then we got to the airport. This is even more funny. I handed the passports to the ticket lady, and my mom refused to hand me hers and was almost teasing me about it, just raising her passport away from me so I wouldn't touch it, only to eventually slam it on the desk in front of everyone. Yikes. I feel bad for my dad, because he has to live with her 24/7. Anyway, she didn't bother saying bye to anyone and hasn't spoken to me since the evening she stormed out of the house in July. As far as I can remember, I've always gotten the silent treatment when my mom was upset. Even when I didn't know what I had done wrong, she would ignore me for days at a time, until I would basically crawl at her feet begging for forgiveness, or write her letters apologizing for something I didn't even know I had done. Either that, or yell at me and say extremely mean things to me, and then come back crying over how bad of a mom she is. And despite me telling her multiple times how harmful it is, especially for growing children, to give the silent treatment, it's always her go-to punishment towards me, or sometimes my dad. I probably forgot some details, but I think you get the picture. Now I have quite a small family, and Christmas at home always makes me feel depressed, especially since I moved out to another country and experienced Christmas in a big and loving family that is my partner's. Being at my parents' or around my mom makes my mental health go extremely low, and I literally start feeling suicidal again, despite being clean for several years now. I feel guilty for not coming this year either, although I physically can't, even if I wanted to because of a recent surgery. But I still want to send a package for my dad, my brother, and my aunt. But I don't know if my mom really deserves a gift. My dilemma is, if I don't send her a gift, I will hear about it for the rest of my life, and she might ruin Christmas for my family like she does every year. Again, I have a lot of stories of things she's done because of her ridiculous tantrums. But if I do send her a gift, it's like she wins again. It's like I'll be crawling at her feet begging for forgiveness like I did as a child. I don't want to be submissive to my mother anymore. I quite frankly dislike her. While it feels very nice not to bother sending her messages every single day or suffer her mean responses or useless comments, I still feel some guilt, which I assume is normal, considering how manipulative she is. I don't want her to have power over me again. Would it be wrong not to send her a gift? She also has her birthday early in January, and I don't want to wish her a happy birthday either, but it feels so wrong. I feel really stuck. I don't even know if she is going to give me anything for that matter. I think I've said anything now. I really tried to keep it short, but I have so many things I could say about her that could probably contribute to the not sending her a gift option, but I'm afraid it will be too long to read. Just ask if you want any funny stories, I guess. Oh, and this is of any use. I am 21 and my mom is over 60. TLDR. Would I be the asshole for sending a gift to my aunt, my dad, and my brother, but not my mom, considering she has been abusive to me all my life and hasn't spoken a single word to me since July? OP is not an AH for not sending a Christmas gift to his mother. OP's mom is an AH for being abusive and manipulative. OP is a victim of her toxic behavior. OP did nothing wrong by setting boundaries with his mother. His reaction is completely justified. So I would rate OP's mom 2.5 out of 5 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Sora X3. AITA, for not wanting to bail my mother out of foreclosure of her house, cause my brother who lives there should have paid rent. My mom is already heading towards her third unfilled mortgage payment. She is 65 and recently quit her job between October and Nov to have a vacation. I don't judge her wanting to do what she wants at her age and don't hold her against her. But she was fully aware she has $200 USD in the bank, and next month mortgage payment was going to add up. Today she got the call from bank, and she already afraid she might head to foreclosure if we don't do something about it this week. I can pay it. I can get a bank loan for it. I don't want to for a very strong reason. My older brother, 36, has been living there since we were 3rd grade. He lives with his 3 growing children in one room, GF in his, and GF's 18-plus son in the back little room. She used to live there up till this year when they got into a terrible fight, and finally decided to live with me upstate. I'm paying for food for us. I take her shopping when I can, and usually never say no. I help get her medication and checkup set up. I'm going to pay her rent this month too. I'm taking responsibility to ensure she is happy as can be, compared to taking care of 3 young kids that the father, my brother, neglects and makes her pick up before after school. She feed them every day without reimbursing her. She even cleans their clothes and the house every day, like a loving grandmother would do while still working to pay the house and bills because he never did. But I got fed up this clear mistreatment. Sure, I came back to live with them a couple of years and didn't pay rent, but that also involved being forced to picking up his kids and being someone that actually cared what they were becoming and needed, the kids. He never paid many bills, if at all. Had water shut off twice of the time I was there, 'cause he never paid. He still owe my mother $1,500 for that BTW. She paid thousands and worked endless nights and weekends to keep us afloat as kids and feed us when our father got sick and died of HIV/AIDS. And yes, she has it too. I took her on April 2024, and it was expected he pay some money towards rent now that he had the house all to himself. It's been 8 months. He never helped this woman pay even 1 month's rent up till now. He still lives there. Now they are both mad at me 'cause it's just a loan. Nothing else matters. No, that's not how it works. He has lived there for 25 plus years. I told her this would happen, that it should be his responsibility to become an adult like the rest of us and work for the big man, even if it's terrible. She is though just as stubborn and says she will take responsibility and it belongs to her to resolve it. Neither can answer a simple question I asked. What are going to do so this doesn't happen again? Neither had a good answer. Brother called today, and his response is yelling at me, and that I don't understand. Mother was as said above, going in pointless loops to justify a reason that she has it any control when she clearly doesn't. I come across heartless and don't want my nieces and nephew being homeless. A part of me doesn't really care. They have a plan to sell cars to get the money later and pay me back, and that my question is pointless. My brother has 8 to 10 cars in the backyard rotting away, but part of me is willing to let her lose her house so she can understand who is really the burden in all this. And to add, he has let the house rot from the inside out. Garage is rotten house. Cockroaches own this house since I was a kid. The aforementioned 8 to 10 cars in a backyard like we're a impound. Outdated everything, and in need of dire repairs or rebuilding. All while claiming it's not his house or responsibility until he owns the house. You can't deny responsibility and expect to own the damaged house after our mother passes away. Not to mention they argued all the damn time. It was completely a toxic environment with him specifically. Always about bills, about kids, about money, where to move his junk. Car parts unnecessarily taking space in the house. He has in the past put his hands on her. Why she needs to defend him, I don't know. Am I the AH? OP is not an AH for refusing to give financial support to her mother and brother. OP's mother and brother are AHs for creating troubles for OP instead of taking accountability. OP did nothing wrong. Her decision is completely justified. So, I would rate OP's mother 2.5 out of 5, OP's brother 3.5, and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the next story from acceptable_secret 363. AITA for being upset because my dad went behind our backs and drank again after promising to be sober. A man, 53M white, gets into a car crash late at night while driving under the influence, which causes him to total his car and end up getting hurt. Paramedics arrive and take him to the hospital, and the entire drive there consists of him saying that he wants to die and that he wants to kill himself, and he is kept under supervision while recovering in the hospital. His wife, 47F Mexican, arrives at the hospital and manages everything on her own after she speaks to him. She speaks with the insurance, gets a good lawyer, and manages to bring money together to pay off the immediate fines and prices with the help of her brothers. A few days later, he is discharged from the hospital and comes home again and tries to speak with his children. His 2 youngest daughters, 9F and 12F, hear him out, but the eldest, 16F, doesn't even want to look at him. Eventually, she comes around and he promises to remain sober and to put his family first. A few weeks pass and everyone is working better. The kids are doing fine, his wife has a job with longer hours, and he finds a decent job. He takes AA classes and is slowly moving forward. A key thing to keep in mind, he totaled his car under his wife's credit, and they are left with 1 less car. So, his wife gives him the keys to her car for him to drive to work, with the condition that if he drinks again, she will take back the car, and he will have to move around on public transportation. He's in his 5 senses, and agrees with these terms. However, he is becoming more irritable as the days go by. His body is craving alcohol again. His family notices, and they do everything to keep him calm and happy. They reassure him and are positive, and encourage him to keep doing well, as they are proud of him. Then, because his wife is working more hours, she has a bit of pocket money. She decides to take her daughters out to the mall for a day where they can pick something they want, like a doll, press-on nails, and a sweater, and she can finally get her hair done after months of not being able to. Until the next day. The dad drinks again, but no one says anything, as he is drunk, and arguing with a drunk person is stupid. They will not understand or listen. Everyone goes to bed, and he believes he is off the hook. The next morning comes. His wife gets ready for work, and the kids get ready for school. Suddenly, 16F hears her parents arguing down the hallway. She goes and checks on them. Her father is arguing with her mother, demanding her to give him her car keys, as he has to go to work. She stays firm and denies him, reminding him of the agreement they had. He becomes increasingly angry and threatens to hit her, and instead takes the other set of keys she had, taunting her with them. She manages to get them back and heads out to get the car, and her children follow behind her. Then, they see their dog, out of his crate. He is allowed to be out of the crate if someone is home, otherwise he will remain in it. But the girls fear for the dog's safety, so they put him in his crate. The father calls out to them, saying that he is still home, so the dog can stay outside with him. 12F says that he never closes the dog crate, so she's doing for him, and so the dog stays safe. He shoves her back and tells them to get the f*** out to their mother. 16F has had enough, so she grabs her sisters and is walking out the door when she hears her father call them pitas. One of the worst slurs in Spanish, wears in a horrible Latin accent, as he doesn't speak Spanish, but his wife and children do, so he knew it would hurt even more. He says, "F you all," to his daughters, and 16F yells, "Well, f you too," and slams the front door before leaving to go to school. A few hours later, 16F checks her phone. She received a notification from her father's email. She has both her parents' emails. It was a confirmation receipt for a $430 flight ticket from LA to New York, departing at 10 p.m. the same day. 16F sends the email to her mother and asks her about it. Her mother reassures her to just focus at school. Everything will be sorted out soon. When they arrived at home, they found some of her father's belongings gone. 2 weeks later, he reaches out to 16F once, begging her to convince her mother to let him come back home. He has avoided talking about anything with her mother and told her to figure it out on her own. They are now having trouble figuring out what they are going to do to pay rent, bills, and what will happen with the legal troubles. Her father's court date is approaching, and if he doesn't show up, he will be arrested for a DUI. What is your opinion? Should her mother have let him drive the car? Is he in the wrong? OP is not an AH for refusing her father. OP's father is an AH for being abusive towards his family. OP did nothing wrong by refusing her father's request to let him home again. OP's father has broken his promise by not prioritizing his family. So, I would rate OP's father 3.5 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Fickle_election 4835. AITA. If I stopped talking to my ex's family altogether? Me, 18F, and my BF, 19M, have been together for about 6 months, but have known each other longer, as he's my best friend's cousin. In August, he left for MTC. We're both LDS, though I converted and he was born in, and he didn't talk to me at all. We stayed together and planned to get married when we got home. Up until the day he left, he was telling me how much he loved me and couldn't wait to marry me, etc. I figured the radio silence was because he was busy. He's a pretty strict rule follower, and I assumed he would be focusing on his new role. Well, a month went by, then 2, then 3. I was getting his group emails when he would send them irregularly, and finally yesterday, I get my first real contact from him. It was a voice note. He broke up with me. The fish was basically that he wrote me a letter I never received, and that he had never really been in love with me. He had just tried really hard to. He said he couldn't marry me if he knew his heart wasn't in it, and I deserved more than a lukewarm husband. And then he offered to pay me back the money I used to go visit him and his family back before he left, as if it was the money that mattered most. He seemed really fixated on it. I completely get his emotions and feelings. Apparently, he'd been feeling this way since back when he asked me out, and was just too afraid to say anything. I'm a little hurt. He asked me out despite knowing his feelings, because my feelings went from being a crush that would blow over in a month to now, I'm in love with him. I've never been in love before, and typically I'm really good at guarding my heart, so I'm not sure how he got through all the defenses so easily, especially with, apparently fake, sentiments. I'm just glad he finally told me now. I was getting really upset at the lack of communication since talking used to be our favorite thing to do, and I was expecting to still chat once a week, but nope. Completely ghosted for months. His family and I are really close. My best friend is his cousin, and her parents are mother and father figures to me. His own parents and I grew very fond and close with each other. I started calling his mom Mama last name, and his sister and I are also very close. She's little, and I absolutely adore her, and having a baby sister again. His brothers and I weren't as close, but his older brother reached out to me this morning to confirm I was all right. I love his family so much, but their son hurt me pretty bad. My heart is by no means made of glass. It's got fortresses protecting it. I've been through a lot, and in spite of that, I'm still going strong. My heart will heal, but it will take some time. I feel like I need to rip the Band-Aid off and just cleanse myself of him, so I'm thinking I may just cut him off. He wanted to stay friends, send his family their Christmas gifts, and then stop talking to them as well. The thing is, his dad, mom, and brother all checked in on me and I feel really bad for wanting to not talk to them anymore. I love them so much, but it really hurts, and I don't even want to know when he comes home, or if he brings home another girl. Nothing. I want to be oblivious to his existence. I already unfriended him on all social media, and deleted any posts dash pictures of him and I together. I would feel horrible to stop talking to his family too, because they did nothing wrong. But at the same time, I'm not sure it would be healthy for me to stay in contact for the next 2 years, and then have to break my heart all over again by him coming home and having to not speak with them then, because I won't want to hear anything about him, and they'll give me life updates with him in them. So AITA, if I stop talking to my ex's family, is there another solution I may not be seeing? OP is not an AH for prioritizing her emotional well-being. She is going through a difficult breakup. OP's ex-boyfriend is an AH for breaking up with OP over a voice note. OP's decision to protect and distance herself from this difficult situation is completely justified. So, I would rate OP's ex-boyfriend 3.5 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Doria. AITA for not letting my fiancé play dad to his nephew, who's his biological son from sperm donation. I don't know if this is the right sub for this, but I need advice because my engagement is literally hanging in the balance right now. My fiancé donated sperm to his brother and his now ex-wife because they were having issues conceiving naturally. The wife was checked by multiple doctors, but his brother refused to get checked because he didn't want people to think he was less of a man, so he roped my fiancé into secretly donating sperm. I wasn't comfortable with the idea, but my fiancé comes from a close-knit family, so I knew I wouldn't be able to convince him not to help his brother, so I didn't even try. His brother was supposed to raise the child as his own, but he couldn't cope with the fact that the baby wasn't biologically his, so he divorced his wife before she even gave birth. Ever since my fiancé has been supporting her financially because his brother left her with nothing, and she doesn't work. To an extent, I was okay with this, because she's probably the biggest victim in all of this, and my fiancé's brother is a huge jackass for putting her in this situation. But it did make me uncomfortable when he was buying her gifts to cheer her up, or going to doctor appointments with her. She's since given birth, and now my fiancé has decided he'll raise the baby with her because he doesn't want the child to grow up fatherless. Also, a big reason I think he wants to raise the baby is because his brother has made it seem like she was unfaithful to his family, so they're questioning whether the baby is a part of their family or not, and my fiancé doesn't want his nephew to be shunned. I'm completely against this because it was bad enough that I had to accept another woman birthing his child before me, but I don't want to be a stepmother. The agreement was that my fiancé would be only an uncle to the baby, which is something I can cope with. Anything more is too much. I know this isn't an easy situation for the ex, and I sympathize with her, but this isn't my problem. She shouldn't have let her husband push her into something she wasn't comfortable with, and my fiancé has already done more than enough for her. AITA? OP is the AH for her discomfort with her fiancé playing dad to his nephew, but she is disregarding her fiancé's deep emotional connection to the child and his desire to support his nephew, which cannot be justified. For this, I would rate OP 0.1 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the next story from Mars Goo 2020 AITA. If I set boundaries with my mother and threaten to cut her out of my life if she doesn't respect them. I, 24 transgender male, have always had issues with communicating with my mom, and it was alright in high school and everything, but lately, unresolved feelings have come to the surface. To get an idea of everything, I grew up with divorced parents, and my mom had my brother, 30M, with someone else 6 years before she had me. For a majority of my childhood, despite her getting remarried when I was 3, it was just me, mom, and my brother in the house. The man she was with was a recovering alcoholic, and he would take his anger out on us by yelling and emotionally abusing us. Well, when I was 12 and my brother was 18, they divorced, and my brother enlisted in the Air Force. So, I went from being the youngest to the only child. During the time they were getting a divorce, that was really the only time I really had my mother's undivided attention. It was the only time I felt that she really paid attention to me and cared about how I was feeling. When I was 14, she got together with my stepdad, who had 3 kids that were still in school and all younger than me. And when their mom had a mental break, they came and lived with us. All of a sudden, I was the oldest sibling, with the responsibility of looking out for my younger siblings, and I was just starting high school. To make matters worse, the following year, my grandmother was diagnosed with stage 4 lung bone cancer. I did what I could to help with my siblings and support my mom emotionally, but it feels like she never really saw a lot of what I did. That Christmas, even though I had asked for a tablet or something to do my artwork that I do, we all got a Wii U, because my younger brothers expressed interest in games that were coming out for the system. I ended up still getting sketchbooks and canvases to do art, but the boys really got what they wanted, and my younger sister ended up getting a ukulele that she never really learned how to play. That year for my birthday was spent in the hospital with my dying grandmother, who passed away only a few short weeks later. The next year I had asked for similar things and a few games for the Xbox my dad had handed down to me when he'd gotten a new one. I got one of the games from Santa, but not the drawing tablet. My little brothers ended up getting a Nintendo Switch that year. This continued for the next few years, with my mom and stepdad giving me and two of the younger siblings a 3 Decaiskins due to one of the boys already having one, and I got none of what was really on my list. My 18th birthday, the only thing I got a 6-pack of snack cupcakes and a small emoji balloon on a stick. I had even had an ROTC competition on my birthday, and they didn't even show up to watch me compete because one of my siblings had something going on. My grandmother, on my father's side, and my grandfather let me take a few friends out to dinner that night. I'd moved out of our 2-bedroom apartment when I was 16 because there were 6 of us, and I, still presenting as female at the time, was sharing a room with my younger brother, who was only 3 years younger than me. Around 2 months before graduating from high school, my mom asked me what I wanted for a graduation present, and I told her that all I wanted was to go on a trip with her. I didn't care where or what we did. I just wanted a vacation with just my mom, and no worries about our personal lives. I graduated nearly 7 years ago now, and have yet to go on a trip with her. After I graduated, I went to an acting showcase and got a scholarship to acting school. I had been active in theater in high school and was constantly told I wasn't good enough, so this was a big thing. Every time I brought it up, it didn't seem like my mom believed I could actually make it through the school and get a degree. I did, but it was rough. Before going to school, I was in a world premiere musical in my hometown about a historical event in the town, and while they had to take care of my stepdad's parents, who were going through medical issues at the time, it still hurt to see them at a gas station, and I reminded her of the show, and she flat out told me that she had forgotten about it, despite me posting on Facebook about it for weeks beforehand. Shortly before leaving for school, I had a bad depressive episode, and nearly myself, thinking that I was just going to constantly be in the background with people I cared about. I went through a partial hospitalization program that helped me come up with coping skills for my mental health that I've used to this day, because I was still on my mom's health insurance. She got the bill for it when I was in New York and called me about it. I told her just bits and pieces because I was ashamed, and she only ended up yelling at me, and because I still felt that she didn't really care about me, I limited contact with her then, and only focused on getting through school. On my 20th birthday, I sat in my kitchen in my college apartment with my roommate cooking behind me while I was on the phone with her, and listened to her yell at me about not communicating for an hour and a half, which ended with me in tears. I somehow made it through acting school during COVID and everything, and came out as transgender between the 2 school years. When I told her, she said she still loved me, and she constantly still tries to use the right pronouns and my name. But it's hard for her. I don't get upset because both her and my stepdad are constantly trying. This last year, I thought we were getting better with our relationship, especially when my grandfather on her side was diagnosed with gastroesophageal cancer and nearly died from a routine operation. We communicated and helped each other through it, and everything seemed fine. I ended up with some health problems from work, and due to the runaround I got from them, I ended up quitting my job. Recently, a new game came out that doesn't work on my Xbox One, and I asked for help from both her and my father to try and get a PS5 so I could play games with my friends in my free time and relax, especially with me in training to be an EMT with the goal of eventually being a paramedic. I need things to do with everything I am going to experience. Well, I experienced a bad call on a ride along this past weekend and called my mom for advice on how to adjust to it since she's a nurse. During the call, she flat out told me she was done getting game systems for us kids, so I shouldn't even bother asking her for it. And the only kid that's getting one is my youngest brother, because that's what he asked for as a graduation present. I don't want to have to cut my mom out of my life. I really don't. She's the only parent who's always been in my life consistently, because my father couldn't handle being a good dad to me and my two oldest brothers from him, but he's at least come back and tried to make up for everything. I just feel like my mom never listens to me and has constantly pushed me to the side to worry about the other kids because I never really had problems in school or when I was younger. I plan to sit down with her and set boundaries with her that my current roommate told me I should do and explain to her my feelings. The only problem is that when I do bring this stuff up to her, she either shuts down and starts yelling, or she just denies everything and gaslights me. And I know that if I set these boundaries, she'll send everyone my way to try and get me to see reason and lift these boundaries, which will only give me one option, and that is to cut her out completely. But that would also mean cutting out people important to me and risk a relationship with my brother's kids. So, AITA, if I do this? OP is not the AH for setting boundaries with her mom. In fact, it is a healthy step, especially when the parent repeatedly dismisses her feelings and needs. OP has endured years of emotional neglect, and it's understandable to demand respect in their relationships. If boundaries lead to distance, it's unfortunate but necessary for OP's well-being. So, OP is not an AH, and I would rate her 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. As for OP's mom, she is an AH for her behavior towards OP. So, I would rate OP's mom 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from HMR 131. AITA for wanting to leave my boyfriend because he has 0 nurturing qualities? I, 24F, come from a family of medical professionals, so nurturing and care are hardwired into me. My 28M boyfriend comes from a very rural family of country folk, to put it lightly, where injury or illness was basically ignored or not taken seriously, and everyone was pretty much told to suck it up or rub some dirt in it. We've been together for almost 4 years. To preface, I have never expected to be taken care of and rarely ask for help unless I physically cannot do something on my own. I suffer from many debilitating chronic illnesses that affect my mobility, and my mother's side of the family has a rare gene expression that results in pretty much all of us getting some form of cancer at some point. My chronic illnesses, POTS and EDS, result in me either passing out or almost passing out frequently, and my joints dislocate often just from walking, getting out of bed, standing up, lifting, etc. He was so caring the first few months of our relationship and seemed so concerned every time I had a flare-up, but that soon turned to me rarely asking for help, because I could tell he was bothered by my helplessness at times. In 2023, I was diagnosed with brain cancer and had brain surgery in November of that year to remove the tumor, but unfortunately, it left me completely blind on the right side and left the right side of my body very weak due to the tumor's location. My boyfriend stayed with me in the hospital while I was in the ICU recovering, but showed virtually no emotion towards any of the complications. I lived with him at the time, so he knew he'd be my primary caretaker following surgery, and his work was next door to our house, so his boss said he could take as many breaks as needed to check in or help me without any effect on his pay. My orders were minimal standing and absolutely no lifting for 2 weeks, and as much rest as I could get. After 3 days, he seemed completely bothered any time I needed help. If I forgot something in another room and had already laid back down, he would huff and puff about having to grab something for me. It got to the point where I ignored doctor's orders and was doing almost everything myself because seeing him annoyed by helping me broke my heart. Meanwhile, I was also adjusting to being newly half-blind and coping with the loss of my future career. I was in veterinary school and couldn't complete the graduation lab requirements with low vision. I actually brought it up to him a few weeks later, and he got better. Afterwards, the depression and grief of what had happened to me set in, and I admittedly became very depressed and wasn't taking very good care of myself or picking up after myself, as all I wanted to do was lay in bed. I was mourning an entire life I had dreamed for myself, and mental health care is hard to come by where we lived. He confronted me about all of this, and word for word said, "It's been 2 weeks. You need to get over it." We had a big argument, and he apologized a few days later. I gave him the benefit of the doubt, as I knew it had to be hard on him too, since he never expected to become my caretaker and sole breadwinner for the foreseeable future, so suddenly and so soon. Especially when he had never really been nurtured growing up since his parents were so rough around the edges and had a very pull yourself up by the bootstraps type of mentality. Eventually, I found a temporary tech job I could do from home, and I ironically ended up pulling myself up by my bootstraps and got back into a good daily routine as not to burden him with my depression. I ended up moving in with my parents again so that they could help out with my care and driving me around since I can't do so anymore with my vision loss. Well, here we are a year later, and I just had a tubal ligation 6 days ago after deciding there was no way I was passing cancer and a slew of other illnesses down to children. This was a very difficult decision. With my chronic condition, I don't heal well, and the surgery resulted in unexpected complications and severe pain. He couldn't come over until the weekend because of his new work schedule, but he spent the weekend here with me, and once again, I felt zero empathy from him. I'm not allowed to lift, and I'm still in a ton of pain, and every asked favor felt like pulling teeth. I even almost fainted at one point and vomited, and when I came out of the bathroom, he didn't react. No, "Are you okay?" or "Can I get you anything?" I was miffed at that point and said, "Can you please move so I can sit down and not pass out?" Since he was taking up the bed, and he asked me why I was suddenly being such a brat. So, I laid out how I was feeling, and he responded by saying how I love to point out when he's not doing something right. This was because I brought up how he treated me after last year's procedure. I love him so much, but I don't think he'll ever be someone I can lean on for support considering my chronic illnesses will lead to more medical complications in the future, and I'm considering leaving. It breaks my heart having to consider this at this time of year. We've had lots of up and downs in our relationship, but this is what is weighing on me the most heavily right now. So, AITA and reading too much into his lack of care, or am I justified in my feelings? OP is not the AH for leaving her boyfriend because her chronic health issues require emotional and physical support, which her boyfriend consistently fails to provide. Her feelings of neglect are valid, especially considering the lack of empathy during major surgeries and ongoing struggles. Let's now jump onto the next story from Blue_for you. AITA for not spending time with my BF's family? I 26F and my boyfriend 30M have been dating for a year and a couple months now. We met on a dating app and hit it off on the first date. We made things official after a few dates, and I genuinely love this man. He's invited me on trips with his family, convinced me to quit my miserable full-time job and go back to college, and encouraged me to seek mental help. Another thing I should mention is he's helped me out on multiple occasions with bills after I quit my full-time job. I genuinely love this man and want to spend the rest of my life with him. The only issue is his parents, specifically his mother. So, a little background about myself before I get to the part about my boyfriend's parents. I've never been good with money. While yes, I was working a full-time job, I didn't save much money, but I wasn't falling short on bills and never missed credit card payments and my stock investment. My parents created a savings account for me when I was young and put money in it so I'd have it for college, but I never touched it until my boyfriend convinced me to go back to college to get my degree. On to the parents. So, I've always enjoyed spending time with my BF's parents. They've been good to me and always went out of their way to make me feel welcomed. Sure, we've had our issues, but other than that, I thought everything was okay. I'll start with the first incident I've had with his mom. His parents own a lake house in another state, and they usually take 2-week trips for the summer there. My BF had convinced me to quit my full-time job and apply for the fall semester and to come with them on their trip. He told me to quit on the spot, but I wanted to maintain a good relationship with my ex-job and put my 2 weeks in and missed the first week of my BF and his family's trip. My BF offered to fly me into the state and pick me up from the airport, so I agreed. He paid for my flight and Ubered to the airport, and I eventually made it to the house with him. Things were going well, although I wasn't making much conversation with his family. I'm not trying to make excuses, but I hadn't been dating my boyfriend for very long when this trip happened, so I didn't know his parents very well, and this was the first time I had met his aunt and uncle. I have bad anxiety, which my boyfriend knows about, and was taking a new medication at the time. Another thing about my boyfriend is he's a huge pothead. He takes bong rips consistently throughout the day, and he was smoking on the trip, and I asked if I could have one of the edibles he brought with him. He said yes, and I only ate half of it. I've taken edibles before and have smoked weed multiple times in the past, and didn't think my reaction would be bad, but it was. I'm going to be honest, I don't remember much from that day, but I ended up passing out and missing an important dinner with his whole family, and my boyfriend expressed how his family was wondering where I was the whole time. I apologized and said I've never had a reaction like that, and I thought everything was fine after that. The next day, my boyfriend came to me, and we had a sit-down, and he told me he was having doubts about our relationship because I wasn't spending enough time with his family on the trip, and I had missed an important dinner. I apologized but also won't lie and say I didn't make excuses for myself. I told him about my anxiety, the new medication I was taking, and that I've taken edibles before, and this reaction was new to me. I told him I'd put my effort into spending time with his family, and I kept true to my word. For the rest of the trip, I pushed myself to spend time with his family. A little background about my BF's aunt and uncle. They're both extremely conservative, anti-vax and anti-mental health. I've heard the uncle straight up say, "Chinese people are scum," which is absolutely disgusting to say. Regardless, I tried to bond with everyone and keep the peace. Eventually, the trip ended, and my boyfriend seemed happy with how things ended up. The second incident I had was with his mother and the family dog. My BF and his family used to have a dog, and he would always get into the garbage, so they usually keep it in a cabinet and keep a little step stool in front of the cabinet door to stop the dog from getting into the trash. At one point, I'd used the garbage and noticed the ladder wasn't there. I looked for it, but couldn't find it, so I assumed someone was using it and left it at that. His mom is kind short, so I guess in my mind it made sense that she might be using it because I've seen her use it before to reach things on top shelves. Well, the dog got into the garbage, and my BF's mom was pissed. I apologized and explained that the ladder wasn't there while I was using the garbage, and that I tried to look for it, but she wouldn't even look at me or speak to me. My BF and I went downstairs, and I started crying because I thought I'd ruined things with my BF's mom. My boyfriend tried to calm me down, but in the end, I just left. His mother sent me a text saying she wasn't mad at me, but her behavior during the situation made me think otherwise. Regardless, I decided to let the whole thing go, and when I saw her next time we both pretended like nothing happened. The third instance was fairly recently. It was my BF's sister's birthday, and I came over. I wished his sister happy birthday and spoke to her for a bit, and then went downstairs to my boyfriend's room to hang out with him. His parents ordered pizza for the party, and we all came upstairs to eat. There were a lot of people there. IMO. It was my BF's parents, my BF, me, the sister, and the sister's boyfriend. They were all talking and making conversation, and I tried to join in as much as I could. I guess at some point, the noise of the conversation and kitchen overwhelmed me, and I just stared off into space for a bit. For reference, I struggle with noise. I've been working with doctors to figure out why this is, and I've been told by multiple doctors that I may have autism. It's gotten so bad that I sometimes wear headphones to block out the noise, and my boyfriend knows this. Anyways, the dinner ends and I head downstairs to do homework. It's final season, and I wanted to study and do some homework in my BF's room downstairs in the basement. At one point, while I was studying, my boyfriend asked me if I wanted some cake, and I said yes, and offered to come upstairs to grab it with him, but he insisted I focus on my homework. Eventually, he brings down the cake, and I think everything is okay. A couple days after the party, my boyfriend and I are talking, and he mentions how his mom thought I was rude for not coming upstairs to sing happy birthday to the sister. I was confused, and brought up that I offered to come up with him to grab the cake, and also mentioned that his mother has my number, and could have sent me a text asking me to come upstairs to sing happy birthday. We went back and forth, not in an argument, but a discussion, and I eventually let things go. But I'm going to be honest, it kind of hurt to hear that she thought I was being rude. After all of these instances, and a couple more, I recently started making excuses to not drive over to his house because I know I'll have to speak with his mom. I feel like I have to walk on eggshells around her, so I just stopped coming over to their house. Last night, my BF noticed something was wrong, and I confessed to him that I was avoiding his family because of his mom's past behavior. My BF said that his family feels the same way about me because my mood is always up or down. While I do have bipolar disorder, I've always made an effort to put on a smile for his family. The second I come over to their house, I always check the living room to say hi to them because his mom and dad are usually there, and I have a nice conversation with them before going down to my BF's room. Another thing my boyfriend brought up was that his parents are concerned with him giving me money to pay my bills. It's something I'm very embarrassed about, and I've told him to save his money multiple times, and he gives it to me anyways. I work 2 jobs and go to college full-time and try to pick up shifts as much as I can without making my grades slip. I've been searching for jobs for months and haven't had much luck, and I've been very vocal about it with both my boyfriend and his parents. My BF suggested going door to door to different jobs, and I did, and every place I went in person told me to apply online, or they gave me a pamphlet with a QR code to scan to apply. My BF said his parents are concerned that I'm going to grow up and marry their son and mainly rely on his income. To me, that doesn't make sense. I'm currently in college full-time to hopefully get a degree. I've been very vocal about getting my master's to his parents to do my dream job, and it hurt that they viewed me as a leech in his life. I tried to defend myself and see things from my BF's point of view, but I told him I needed space from him and his family, and we haven't spoken since last night. Please tell me if I'm in the wrong. I love this man and I want to be with him so badly, but I don't know what to do. I also wanted to mention a couple of other things that have happened between me and his family. I used to joke to my boyfriend that we should get married on the spot, and his mom went behind my back and asked him about it. He explained to her that it was just a joke, but she expressed concern because neither of us are financially stable. My boyfriend asked me to stop making these jokes around his mom, and I agreed to. Another thing that happened was about my mental health. I've always struggled with it, and at one point I told my boyfriend I planned to end my life after our 1 year, and he was upset about it. He wanted to take me to the hospital, but I convinced him to take me after our 1-year celebration, and he did. After our 1 year, my mental health continued to decline, and he ended up driving me to the hospital, which I appreciated, but he brought his mom with him because he couldn't handle this alone. I understand that it's upsetting to see your partner so low, but after everything that has happened between me and his mom, I didn't want her there to see me at my lowest, but my boyfriend convinced me to let her come. I also want to note that my boyfriend has never paid for anything college-related. I relied mainly on my savings account and financial aid. I really want to know if my thoughts and feelings are justified, and if my relationship is saved able. So, am I the AH? OP is not the AH. She's navigating her own mental health challenges and anxiety, and while her boyfriend's family has valid concerns, her discomfort around them is understandable. However, avoiding communication and not addressing issues directly with them is problematic. No scores, just encouragement to communicate and resolve issues directly. What do the MacReddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comments section below. Now, if you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to MacReddit for a daily dose. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.